Hi students, welcome to GradeGuru. In this video, we are going to learn how to find the number of protons, neutrons, electrons of an element. So what is an element? Well, this is represented. X, this represents the name of the element. So for example, if it's C, it means it's talking about carbon. And let's do it with some example. C, and here we have 12, and here we have 6. So what exactly is Z? Well, this Z is actually proton number, while this 12 is actually atomic mass number. So what about neutrons? First of all, what is neutron? What is this proton? What is this electron in the first place? Well, an atom, it contains these three particles. What are they? Well, they are proton, they are neutron, and they are electron. What is a proton? Well, it is positively charged. What about neutron? Well, as the name suggests that it's neutral, so it should be neutral, so it's 0. Electrons, on the other hand, has a negative charge. So let's look into this carbon. So how many protons does a carbon have? Well, the Z, the one in the bottom, actually tells you the number of protons. This is 6. What about, so we have our protons done. What about neutrons? Well, this 12, it's actually atomic mass number, and a mass number contains protons plus neutrons. Now, you may be wondering, what about electrons? I mean, you said that we have 3 subdivided particles, so where exactly is electrons? Well, electrons are so small, and they don't really hold a lot of weight, so they are most of the time ignored. So, when we talk about atomic mass, what we are essentially talking about is the mass of protons and neutrons. So, this 12, it says that it contains the total mass number of protons and neutrons. So, we know the mass number of protons. It says 6 here. So neutrons, what do you think it's going to be? Well, it's going to be 6, right? Because it's 12 minus 6. Now, what about electrons? Well, if an atom is neutral, okay, it's not charged, okay? So, for example, this carbon, it's not charged. We don't see any signs here. It's not negative, it's not positive, so it's neutral. So, when it's neutral, the number of protons and the number of electrons, it's the same. Now, let's be more clear. N, P, and then we have electron. What is the number of neutrons? We can find it by A minus Z. Proton, it's just going to be Z, which is the one at the bottom. What about electrons? Well, electrons is going to be Z minus charge. And we have to take into account of this charge. Now, it's going to be more clear with an example. So, let's do an example here. Okay, so let's say we have, let's take example of chlorine, 35, 17. Okay, so let's try to find the number of neutrons. Well, 37 minus 17. So the number of neutrons should come 18. What about the number of protons? Well, it's going to be 17. Electrons, since we don't see any charge there, it's going to be 17 as well. Now, let's say we add a minus here. So now it's not neutral anymore. We have a minus charge here. Now, what does that mean? That means that we have an extra electron. But how can we understand when we have an extra electron? Well, this is a trick here. When we have minus, it means extra electrons. When we have plus, we have extra protons. Well, we can't really have extra protons, but it essentially means is that the number of electrons is lesser. So this one, we can say that we should have more electrons. So using this equation here, we can say 17 minus, we have to take into account of the charge. It's minus 1. This becomes 18 electrons. Hope this becomes quite more easier. And we have more examples here, so now things are going to be a lot more easier. So let's do this. We have carbon. What is the number of protons here? Well, it's going to be 6. Neutrons, 12 minus 6, right? Because A minus Z, it's also going to be 6. What about number of electrons? Well, it's protons, so it's also going to be 6. Let's do for phosphorus. What is the number of proton? 15. What about the neutron? That's 31 minus 15, which is 16. What about electrons? Well, we know that electrons is the same as the number of protons, which is also going to be 15. Now, we have for nitrogen. For nitrogen, we can see the number of protons is going to be 7. Neutrons is going to be 14 minus 7, so that's also 7, and this is also 7. Let's do for iron. What about the number of protons? It's 26, neutrons 56 minus 26, that becomes 30, and this is also 26. Let's do for sodium. Number of neutrons, number of protons. Okay, so protons, what is that? That's 11. Number of neutrons, that's going to be 12. Because 23 minus 11 is 12. And electrons, that's going to be 11. Now, this is where things get interesting. We can see it's a plus. So, the number of electrons, that's not going to be the same. Protons, the number of protons will never ever change, because protons is like sort of like the DNA of human beings. You change the number of protons, you actually change the element. So it's pretty important to remember that the protons and the neutrons, they never change. What essentially changes the number of electrons. Alright, so what's the proton? So we know this doesn't change. We also know this doesn't change. Well, this does. So since it's a plus, which means that what is in abundance, it means proton is more, right? Because that's plus, positive charge. So that means one electron is being taken away. You can also do it like this. So we have Z, which is 11, minus the charge, plus 1. That means 10. Okay, let's do this. Number of protons, that's 8. Number of neutrons, 8. Number of electrons, well, it should be 8 if it's neutral, but we can say it's not neutral. It has minus 2. What does that mean? Well, we have more electrons, so it should be more than 8. How much more? Well, you can also do it like this. 8, which is Z, minus 2. Now, this becomes 10. So we have 10 electrons. Let's do this one. For aluminium, the number of neutrons is, the number of protons, it's 13. The number of neutrons, it's 14. And the number of electrons. Now we're not going to do this. Now we are more smarter. Let's see. So now what does this mean? It means we have more protons than electrons, right? So the electrons means it has decreased. Since it's plus, the abundant charge is now plus. So it's going to be 13 minus 3, which is 10. I hope this video made everything more clearer. And if you have any confusion, do comment below and do subscribe if this video helped you out. Thank you for watching.